Today, I am sharing the beginning of a new series of videos on my channel on building a PC. What's up, s'mores? I'm Shannon Morse, and I started building computers with my dad when I was about 9 years old. I haven't really kept count in recent years, but I think this newest one is gonna bring me to 15-ish builds in my lifetime, either for friends or for myself, or for boyfriends. Back in the day, I would go to this store called Incredible Universe with my dad, and nowadays when I step into like a Micro Center or a Fry's, it brings back so many memories. It's that smell of motherboards displayed in a store and being able to touch the cases, the towers. He really sparked a huge interest in PCs for me, and it never died, and I'm really thankful for that. Now, a lot has changed since the 90s for building computers, but the basics are still the same. So today I am getting set up to build my newest PC, which will be used for gaming and 4K video editing, as well as live streaming. My last personal build was an NVIDIA GeForce Sailor Moon custom rig that was built in 2019, and you can actually still watch that video over on the NVIDIA GeForce Garage channel where I used to be a co-host. I have done a few builds for friends since then, but it's really time for me to upgrade my own computer. I mean, my last one lasted about 6 years and it's still running, but it's not running fine, so it's definitely time for an upgrade. If you've ever wanted to build your own computer but you felt intimidated by all the parts or the acronyms or the fear of accidentally turning a very expensive component into a paperweight, then this series is for you. The full playlist is going to be on my YouTube channel, and it will also be linked below in case you want to watch the rest of the series. This is going to be a very beginner-friendly, no judgment zone. We're going to take this slow, explain what everything does, why it matters, and how all these parts work together to make a computer actually function. This is not going to be a highly customized PC. Everything you see here is off the shelf. No DIY water cooling, no custom mods. You can use this series as a tutorial for most of today's builds and components. Currently, building a computer is going to be incredibly expensive due to demand and market supply on components like RAM and video cards. The cost of those two components alone make up most of the value of this build, which is ridiculous, but thank you so much, AI, for making one of my favorite hobbies extremely expensive now. So based on current estimates, although right now the market is very volatile when it comes to building a computer, this is roughly a $7,000 PC because of those prices. So if I mess up my build, you're gonna see me crying on Instagram about it, but hopefully that does not happen. Knock on wood. Do I have any wood? Yes, real wood. Knock on wood. I've been very fortunate that I've only had one build in my lifetime not boot. So hopefully my luck has not run out in 2026. Even though mine is being built for power user usage, it's built for work mode, 4K video editing, newer video games, you definitely do not have to get that spendy to build a PC either. You can reuse components from old builds. In fact, I do have some old components that I'm gonna reuse in this build because they still work fine. You can check marketplaces for people getting rid of their PCs or components, or just wait it out until the supply and demand are a little bit more level, because right now those numbers are spiked. It's gonna go back down eventually. Another option is to get a pre-built machine and Frankensteining it. I've definitely done that too. If you can get into the components of a pre-built machine, you can take them off as long as they're not pre-soldered on. So today's video is all about the parts, what they are, what they do, and why I chose these ones in particular. I do have two brand partners for this build, ASUS and Kingston, so you will see components from those two manufacturers throughout this build process. Now, before we start ripping all of these boxes open, this is how this series works. Each of these videos will focus on one stage of the build: planning and parts, prep and tools, installing components step by step, the first boot and post, I'll explain what that means, operating system setup, and making sure this thing does not catch on fire under load. You do not need prior PC building experience to follow along. If you can use a screwdriver, if you can read a manual, then you are perfectly fine, you're ready to go. Okay, so let's talk about what actually makes a PC a PC. At its most basic level, a PC is gonna need a brain, memory, storage, power, and a way for everything to talk to each other. Everything else that you will see is all about performance, cooling, expandability, and aesthetics. So let's break down my build piece by by piece. Many of these components were chosen out of necessity or availability. Necessity for my work, 4K video edits, and availability. Again, that demand thing is kind of a bummer this year. So I did have to swap out my personal wish list, some of the stuff on my wish list, for just the available components on a few occasions. That doesn't necessarily mean that I will stick with those particular components. I might want to upgrade in the future. And you can do that too when you're building your own computer. You can upgrade components as you go and upgrade as you go. You don't have to spend all the money all at once. So if you're finding this video helpful, a subscribe would mean so much to me. Subscribing is a super easy way of telling YouTube what kind of videos you find helpful and valuable. And it also tells me if you like to see computer build videos. If you want to see more of these kind of videos in the future, if you subscribe from this video, I can see those analytics. It's all anonymous, but I can see those analytics. I can see how many people subscribe from this particular video, and that helps me figure out which videos I should produce for this channel. And I wanted to say a big Patreon shout out to all of my S'mores community members. You can join them and support my channel by going over to patreon.com/Shannon Morse for perks like early video access. And I also have a really fun private Discord. As usual, all the videos on my channel are free to watch, and I thank my YouTube members and my patrons for making that possible. First up is the CPU. This is the Central Processing Unit. The one I chose is the AMD Ryzen 9 9950X. I purchased this component off of Amazon. You can think of the CPU as the brain of your computer. Every single click, every single calculation, every background task is gonna run through this thing. This CPU has 16 cores, 32 threads, and it's an absurd amount of processing power. But why does that matter? Well, if you're just browsing the web or you're gaming casually, you don't really need something this high power. But for content creation, video editing, multitasking, streaming, compiling, virtual machines, more cores are going to mean your system can do more things at the same time without slowing down. Multitasking. When I was doing some research on which CPU I should purchase, I figured out that this one is very much a creator-focused CPU, and it's going to be the backbone of the entire build. You will also notice that there are two main brands of CPUs when you start researching them that you can buy, both Intel and AMD. I have switched between both of those throughout the years. My choice really came down to current offerings and which one would be the best for handling my workload at this time. I do not park myself in either fan base. I just buy what I need. I used to build a lot of Intel machines when I was growing up, and then I switched over to AMD. And maybe in the future I'll switch back to Intel. It just kind of matters about which one is going to be the best at that time that I am doing a build. Now, a powerful PCU also means heat. Let me get the next unit. So to keep that brain from absolutely cooking itself, I'm using the ASUS ROG Republic of Gamers Ryujin 3 ARGB Extreme Liquid Cooler. This that you see here is an all-in-one liquid cooler, or an AIO for short. So a quick beginner explanation of this thing: air coolers use big metal heat sinks and fans. Liquid coolers like this one move heat away from the CPU, which will be underneath this little piece right here, and they use liquid and a radiator, very similar to how a car's radiator moves heat away from an engine. High-core CPUs like the AMD Ryzen 9 9950X, those benefit a lot from really strong cooling, especially under heavy workloads like rendering. And yes, this thing does have those really pretty RGB colors, because I love lights, okay, in my PC builds. I really like it when they're all blinky and they make pretty colors. We'll talk about that later though. Okay, let me get these out of the way. I'll show you the motherboard. It's like a show and tell episode. This is so much fun. So next up is the motherboard. This is the ASUS ROG Republic of Gamers Strix X870A gaming Wi-Fi motherboard. The motherboard is basically the central nervous system of the PC. Everything plugs into this thing. That's why you see all these different little thingies poking out of the motherboard. It's because everything is going to plug into this. Everything communicates through this. What matters on a motherboard is going to be your CPU compatibility, and that's where your CPU goes. The RAM support, those slots is where your RAM goes. Storage slots, which are kind of hidden down here. Any kind of ports that are along the back. Networking and expansion slots. So this board uses the AM5 socket. That's just the type of plug that the CPU is using. You don't want to try to plug the wrong socket type into the wrong motherboard, or it physically will not match and you'll mess things up. But that is what AMD's modern CPUs require. It also supports DDR5. DDR5 is currently really fast RAM. PCIe 5.0 storage. Again, this just tells you the type of storage stick that you have. Fast USB ports, built-in Wi-Fi, and plenty of room to expand later. A beginner tip here is a motherboard does not directly make your PC faster, but it absolutely determines what your PC is going to be capable of. Also, I don't usually opt for Wi-Fi built-in motherboards, but that's what was available. I usually buy a slightly cheaper model of a motherboard, and then I bring my own upgradable Wi-Fi card. That way, I can just upgrade my Wi-Fi whenever new Wi-Fi comes out and upgrade it to whatever the spec is that matches my Wi-Fi network. But this one does have Wi-Fi built in. That doesn't mean I have to use this Wi-Fi. I can always use an external Wi-Fi card if I want to. Okay, next, let's talk about RAM, or random access memory. Now, this is actually overkill. It's 128 gigs of DDR5 RAM using 4 32 gig sticks from Kingston Fury. Shout out to Kingston for sending this over. RAM is your computer's short-term memory. It's what your system uses to keep things readily available while you are working. More RAM helps whenever you're editing large video files, running multiple apps at once, working with massive projects, or just refusing to close all of your tabs in your browser. An important beginner note when it comes to RAM, you definitely don't need 128 gigs of RAM for a normal build. This is very much a power user setup. This is definitely overkill. Also, with DDR5 and 4 sticks, the system may not run at full speed automatically. That is normal. We're going to cover tuning RAM in the BIOS or the UEFI later in the series, so don't worry too much about those acronyms right now either. Okay, next is your storage. I'm using 3 NVMe SSDs. This does not include what I use on my network attached storage device, which I generally use for storing all my large video files. And I have a Plex server. That too. So I have, let's see, I have one over here that is an older PCIe Gen 4 drive, and then I have 2 PCIe Gen 5 drives. The simple explanation for these is storage is going to be your computer's long-term memory, your operating system, programs, games, any kind of files you need to access a lot. All of that is going to live here and take up space. NVMe drives plug directly into the motherboard, and they are significantly faster than older SATA SSDs or hard drives. Why multiple drives, you may ask? Well, you don't need multiple drives, but I like having one separate for the operating system, usually the smallest one, and generally I try to use one that's fast so it boots up really fast. One for active projects, and I also use one for high-speed scratch or workloads. Do most people need PCIe Gen 5 storage? This is a very new option for PCIe storage. Honestly, not really, but for heavy workloads and future-proofing, it is nice and fun to have. And yes, we will test if it actually feels different. I can definitely speed test the storage when I get this machine all up and running. Gen 4 and Gen 5 actually use the same physical connection, so if you plug a Gen 5 drive into a Gen 4 slot on a motherboard, it will work, but it will be capped at Gen 4 speeds. Okay, now for my favorite part. I'm so excited. This thing is a beast. It's a heavy beast. This right here is the GPU, or the graphics processing unit. I love it. It's my baby. I can't wait to use this thing. This is the Asus TUF RTX 5080 OC edition. So the GPU is going to handle your graphics, gaming, rendering, video encoding, hardware acceleration for creative applications like Adobe Premiere Pro, which I use all the time. It also works with Photoshop and making sure VLC is running smoothly, all those things. Even if you're not gaming, a strong GPU is going to make a huge difference. This thing is going to make your life really nice for video editing, timeline playback, exports, anything visual. It's very much a high-end GPU. This one is very high-end, and we will talk later about power requirements, cooling, and how to install it. Okay, everything needs somewhere to live, so I am using the Asus A31 ATX case. plus a full set of ASUS Tough ARGB fans. This case can come with fans pre-installed, but that one was out of stock, so I bought some fans as well. The case is gonna hold everything together. It affects your airflow, and it also determines how easy your build is gonna be. And these are the fans that I purchased for cooling. Now I think I have maybe one too many fans. No, I think this is enough. I think this is the perfect amount of fans, maybe. I don't know, we'll see. I bought extras just in case I need them. But these are my fans. They're relatively inexpensive. Luckily, fans haven't really been affected by price increases that much, so you can still buy fans for pretty cheap. Important things to mention with fans are gonna be the airflow and how loud they are going to be. So definitely pay attention to that information whenever you're purchasing fans, and make sure that the size is compatible with your specific case model. So I got those, and I also got this one. So cute. So this one's a TF120, and these are TR120s. All right, here's the next piece. This is a power supply, or a PSU, a power supply unit. The one I have here is a 1000 watt ASUS Tough Gold rated PSU. This PSU is the heart of the system. Stable power means you will have a stable PC. Beginner PSA, never cheap out on a power supply. Buy one that is fully modular. You can thank me later for that. I hope this one is modular, because that's what I requested from ASUS. Yes, it is. Fully modular, etched cables. Yes. Thank God. And just a little extra information about the fans. Airflow does matter. Fans are not just for looks, even though mine are colorful. They do keep components cool and they improve performance. We will do a full airflow breakdown later, so no one accidentally builds a PC that's basically a space heater. And then I do have one extra piece down here. This is a capture box. So this is specifically because I'm a content creator. I ended up getting a capture box from ASUS. Thank you so much, ASUS. This is the capture box 4K Pro, which means I will be able to stream 4K gaming and also use this for live videos. That'll be very, very useful. Okay, so that's the full parts list, why each piece matters. If this feels overwhelming, that's totally normal. Building a PC is just a bunch of small steps that are all stacked together, and we are taking them one at a time. In a sense, building a computer is very similar to building out your security and privacy online. There's a bunch of different steps, but once it's done, it just requires some maintenance to keep it running. In the next video, we're gonna prep your tools, workspace, anti-static basics, and how to not destroy a very expensive motherboard before we even start. So if you find this series helpful, make sure to subscribe again so you don't miss the next part, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.